Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another recommendation video. Today I will be doing blue collar heroes. In case you don't know what that term means, it means a worker who does manual or hand work or related to like an industry or something like that. That is the dictionary definition. So we're thinking like farmers and wow, I just literally forgot everything, you guys. Okay, the way that I'm planning to interpret like working with our hands is going to be people who are not billionaires. They're not like made men. This isn't mafia. This isn't like titled people. It's gonna be people who either like men who either have like a small town business. They're like mechanics and firefighters and fishermen and laborers, farmers, like things like around that area. Okay, so we might like waver back and forth with this, but for the most part, these books also fit kind of into like a small town aspect or something like that. But we're just gonna go through. These are some of my favorites, some recent ones I've read, and I'll kind of explain each one as we get to it. Okay, so the first ones I want to mention, which actually, it's kind of a whole series, so I grabbed two of them to give two different examples of this, but I want to mention the Bailey brothers because they, in my opinion, are blue collar heroes. Look, they're even both wearing blue collars. How perfect is this, right? I think it works. So first up, I want to share, this is actually book 3 in the series, but it's the first one that I read. And yeah, I like it the most. Oh my gosh, this thing is going to be stupid in this video too. Sorry for my microphone. He is a mechanic. He owns his own shop. He also does restorations. And this one is about him and Fiona Gallagher, who has a problem. And so she shows up with her troubled car and she needs to use like Evan Bailey to like help her out, and he's like, no, I don't want to. And she's like, well, let me help you out with some work in exchange for using like, I don't know if it's a certain tool or a thing, I can't remember it. And he's just very much like, no, but his dog likes her, so he's gonna get over it. This is a grumpy sunshine to beat all grumpy sunshines. It's absolutely delightful. Highly recommend this series. The audiobooks are fantastic. If you're not reading Claire Kingsley, but you love small town and like blue collar heroes, like you got to get on it. Then there's also, this one is Logan and Kara, and Logan is a firefighter. Actually, a lot of the Baileys are firefighters. I think like 3 out of the 5 of them in this are. And this one is like a one-night stand with his sister-in-law's best friend, who they like hate each other, but they end up having a one-night stand and she gets pregnant. So it is a surprise baby and them deciding how they're going to raise this baby together. And it's fantastic. Love this book as well. Then we, of course, have some Melanie Harlow. She has many blue collar heroes, but I wanted to bring attention to Ignite also because I just got this book from a viewer and I wanted to put it in a video. So this one is another firefighter. This one is, what's his name? Dex, and he is a single dad of 2 kids. And this is also an age gap because his neighbor, her name is Winnie, and she has like a problem happen where he like hears her fire alarm going off or something, and so he comes into her house because he's worried, he wants to see what's going on, and she happens to be naked getting out of the shower, and so he sees her naked, and then there are sparks flying between them. But yeah, there's a 12-year age gap between them, and this is really fun. And again, a lot of Melanie Harlow, she has a billionaire hero for the most part. I think a lot of them are blue collar heroes, but this one's a good one. Then I have to share Not a Hero by Sharice Sinclair. This Not a Hero is definitely a hero in his own right, but this book is the first book in the Sons of the Survivalist, and this guy, he's actually asked to be a small town sheriff. Now, in this small town though, like I would consider him a blue collar hero here because he definitely does more than just be the sheriff, but Him and his 3 other adopted brothers, they were all well, kind of not officially adopted. They were stolen out of foster care because they were in a very dangerous situation. They were stolen by this guy. I can't remember his name now, what it is, but he happened to be nearby. Mako, that's his name, when he heard this dangerous stuff going down for these kids. So he took them. He's like, come live in Alaska with me. And he taught them how to be survivalists and kept them as recluse. And then when they grew up and went out, and this hero, Gabe, he actually is a retired SEAL, and he just wants to live in his isolated cabin, but their adopted father has died, and he's left them with a challenge, with a request that they help bring back this town to life. And so the 4 brothers all agree to help do this. Well, 3 of them to begin with, and you get the 4th later on. And Gabe gets asked to be the sheriff, and he's very reluctant. He's like, hey, I'll be the sheriff until they can find someone else. But of course he falls for the town. And then our heroine in this one, her name is Audrey, and she is a Chicago librarian who discovers a really horrible crime, and she wakes up to an assassin in her bedroom because she found out some stuff she shouldn't know. So she's terrified, and so she flees, and she ends up in this tiny little town and is just going to hide out there. And our sheriff gets a little suspicious of her. So this has a tiny bit of a mystery. Actually, this whole series very much like connects to each other, so you should read these in order to go through it, because there is some like overarching stuff too. But this is small town, and it's wonderful. Then I have Sanctuary by Rebecca Weatherspoon. So this one is about Liz Lewis and Silas McInroy. I don't know how to say this, but Liz ends up being a target for a sadistic former client. She is a lawyer, and her colleague offers to have her go stay with his brother, who's actually an organic farmer. I think he's an organic farmer. Yeah, he is a farmer in upstate New York. And so the thing is that Silas doesn't really like that his brother offered his cabin as a place to stay, but he lives on this small place that's very secluded, and Silas definitely has some neurodiversity as well. Also, Liz, she is a dom. She is dominant for sure. She likes to be in control of her sexual experiences, and when Silas is showing some interest, she says, she's like, I think you're hot. I'm down to fuck while I'm here, but this is what I need in the bedroom. And if you're like uncomfortable with it, then we shouldn't. And he's like, that sounds pretty great. Let's try it. So there's some good things in here. I mean, I'm pretty sure this one had pegging in it. I know it has ass play of the hero in it. And some other great kinky dynamics between them. But this hero is a farmer. So there we go. Then we have Dearest Rogue by Elizabeth Hoyt. This one, I gotta show you the step back. This hero, his name is Captain James Trevelyan, and he is a former captain in His Majesty or Her Majesty, which year is it? The King's Dragoons. And he was injured, and he ends up getting offered to be like a bodyguard. So I'm considering him blue collar because he's from a farming family, and he ends up taking our heroine, Phoebe, to be kept safe at his farm, and so we get to see what he was like. Our heroine is plus size. She's also mostly blind, and our hero is older than her, and he has a limp because he was injured in the service of the king. And these two end up in a forced proximity, like kind of pretending to be fake married at the different places they stay. And it also has the heroine pursuing the hero, which I love as well. But I think you'll agree, like, if you've read this or you're going to read it, that James definitely, like, feels like blue-collar hero in here, even though, blue-collar really wasn't quite a thing in these books yet. I definitely feel it. Then I want to mention another farmer slash rancher slash cowboy who I consider blue-collar, and that's going to be Eyes of Silver, Eyes of Gold. See if the hero's name is listed here. Cord and Anne, that's who's in this one. So this is a very complicated setup for this story too, so I won't go too detailed of this one. I know the cover is like someone drew a shadow puppet and took a picture. I understand. I wish these covers would get an upgrade so badly you have no idea. But this is on KU, And once you are reading it, you don't have to look at the cover. You know, I bought the cover because this was a 6-star read for me last year, okay? So this is about Cord. He is part Native American, and he's considered, well, there's a lot of racism where he is. But he's also considered an outsider, and like lots of filthy things are said about him. But he knew Anne when they were in school, and they were kind of friendly towards each other. But the beginning of this book is Anne is running away from home. Her father's trying to force her to marry someone she doesn't want to marry, and so she runs away, and she ends up staying in Cord's barn overnight. And then her father and people catch up, and they beat the living shit out of Cord. They marry these two to each other as like a joke because they think he's about to die. And then Anne nurses him back to health, meanwhile fighting off his family trying to interfere and her dad trying to come back to get her. And she ends up taking care of his animals while he's healing, and they are slowly falling for each other. And he thinks she's staying because she pities him, and she thinks he's helping her because he pities her. And so there's a lot of that going on. But I really loved these two, and this story like broke my heart, but I loved seeing them work the land together and grow closer through that. Like, they're definitely isolated where they are, and like everyone's against them. You know, again, like his family or her family didn't expect him to live, and his family thinks that he's done something to, like, you know, like maybe he assaulted her and she won't leave. Like, his family sees him in such a like horrible lens too. So this couple faces a lot of adversity, but their love is beautiful. Then I want to share Wake My Heart by Lydia Michaels. Now, I will say right away, like pretty much all of the McCullough Mountain series, which comes before this series, they also are blue collar. Like literally all of those ones and all of the Jasper Falls have blue collar here. Well, except for one. There is a billionaire thrown in here somewhere. But this series, like, they all have it. There's some main jobs at this place. There's like logging and like farming and like construction. Those are the business in this area, so they all are that. But again, this is a book that I recently got. It's so beautiful, and it's actually a signed copy too, and so I wanted to show this one off. So this is the first one in the Jasper Falls series, which is actually the first book I read by... No, did I read Pining for You? Okay, I read Pining for You first. Sorry, but this is the first one in the Jasper Falls series, and look how cute it is. It's so cute. So this one is about Ryan Clooney, and he's actually a cousin to the McCulloughs, I think, because like everyone's related. That's how it goes. But he moves to the outskirts of town, so he finally moved out of his family's home, even though he didn't move that far away. And he's tired of trying to date anyone, but then he moves in next to Maggie, who she is a young widow. He actually knew her and her husband. Her and her husband were high school sweethearts, and they only had a few years together, and he died. And now she is just barely alive. And when Ryan moves in next door and wants to help her, like, draw her back out, she's like, he doesn't understand his like personal privacy or like space. He's always up in my business, but he's just trying to draw her into life, and he really falls head over heels for her, and he's really determined to help her like open up and come out of her shell, and it's really beautiful. But yeah, I believe Ryan works at the logging company as well. But like I said, pretty much all the books in this series have blue collar heroes. All right, I have another like farmer slash sheriff for you, and that's going to be Topaz by Beverly Jenkins. This one was so fun. We read this for Rake Appreciation Society earlier this year, and our heroine, she is a newspaper gal. She's doing some undercover work, and it gets her in a tight spot, actually. She gets herself in a bit of danger. And then she finds out as well that her dad has gotten in trouble for like cattle rustling, and literally could be put to death for this. Like, it's a serious crime there. And the man that he like stole some of the cattle from has agreed to take his daughter as a wife in exchange, because he does want to get married and have children, and so he agrees. And his new bride, she's not too excited about it, but she's like, fine, I'll come and stay with you, but eventually I'm going to leave. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So we see them on like literally a wagon train to get back to where his home is, and then we see her trying to start like her own like newspaper and fighting for women's like rights in this area in great ways, by the way, I'll say. Yeah, it was a really, really fun one, and I definitely think that the West is definitely the optimum, I can never say that word, of blue collar heroes, so definitely recommend. Then I have 2 more firefighters for you, because who does more manual labor than firefighters? We have Hothead, which I have mentioned a couple times recently. It's a book I read quite a while ago, but this is actually gay firefighter romance, and they're friends to lovers. And yeah, our heroes are, like, one of them starts to realize that he has feelings for his friend, but he's like, I can never tell him, it won't be good. But then his friend needs to make some money, and so he gets into doing some porn, and he's like, dude, we can make so much money if we were to do it together, and like, we don't have to fuck or anything, but like, if we got off at the same time, we can make so much more money. This book is ridiculous, you guys, but it is hot, and the sex in this book, it's pretty sexy. So this is by Damon Suede, and I do recommend this one. There's an audiobook for it as well, and they're really both like such sweet idiots in the kindest way. Like, I mean that with love. And then the last one I want to recommend is actually one I haven't talked about in like a long time. So when it came up on my Goodreads list, I was like, oh man. So this one's called Barely Breathing by Pamela Clare, and this is a second chance romance, and it's about Lexi, who is coming back to her small town. I can't remember if she's just staying for a certain thing or why. Like, I don't remember why she had to go back. But Austin is, I think, the fire chief here, and they end up running into each other when I think she has some kind of like medical emergency. He's like the first responder there, and then they end up like, let's have a enemies with benefits relationship, because I'm only going to be in town for a certain amount of time, so don't fall for me all over again. But their chemistry is just so good that they can't help it. So there you go. There we go. Those are some recommendations for blue collar heroes, manual labor, firefighters, farmers, sexy men. There you go. Thank you so much for watching this video. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and check out my Patreon and channel memberships if you'd like to support what I do here. And if you'd like to watch another video, you can do that right now. Bye!